Welcome to the Bastrop Podcast. Real people, real stories, all from right here in Bastrop, Texas. I'm your host, Matt Walker, a local business owner, realtor, and entrepreneur with Wisdom House Realty Group and Bastrop Drone and Media Company. We sit down with the locals, shaping our community, from the mayor's office to Main Street shops, and bring you the voices behind the town we call home. Good morning, everybody. I'm sitting down with Camilo. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You were on MasterChef. That was a pretty exciting experience, I might imagine.
Yes, it was a little overwhelming at first, but it's been a whirlwind. And so it's glad to be on it, and it's just been almost surreal at times.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection to Bastrop?
Yeah, I've been in Bastrop now for 17 plus years. This is my second stint actually here. I'm actually here because of my wife's family. So I met my wife in college in San Marcos, Texas. And, we dated for a while, went our separate ways, and then reconnected. And we reconnected. We decided on Bastrop would be where we would reside. We lived here for a few years, then moved off to Arizona for a few years, and then have since come back. My wife's family's from here. My father-in-law had a beer distributorship here. Her grandmother owned one of the first bars downtown. Another one of her grandmothers had a shop downtown. There was a Christian bookstore. So a lot of ties to Bastrop. And we're glad to be here, and I love it.
That's awesome. I love to hear it. So what was food like in your family growing up?
In the Latin culture, food is almost like a gift. For a lot of Latinos or Mexican Americans in Central and South Texas, you need to kind of work for things. We didn't have a lot growing up, but you can always cook, right? And so one thing you could do was cook and sit around the table and talk. Growing up, my family was really big on eating at the dinner table. And I think that has served me well, not only for myself, but for my family, because till this day, we eat at the dinner table every day. So and I think part of that gets ingrained in your who you are and what you want to do. So my love language is food, and that is sharing with people. I love to share with people, and I love to sit down, break bread, because it's more about not just about the food. It's the conversation. People get comfortable when they're eating, and they tend to talk more. They open up more. You get to know people, and I've shared some really personal experiences with friends, new and friends, old friends, and you still get to learn. So I love the food aspect of it, and it was a big part of growing up, what we did. Until this day, it's my mom's love language. You go to mom's house, abuelita's house, abuela's house, whatever you want to call it, and everyone always leaves with a little snack. And it's amazing. It's a gift she had. You look in the cupboard, you look in the fridge, and there seems like there's nothing there. And then within an hour or two, there's just this great meal. And I was always amazed by that.
Yeah, so I grew up on the East Coast in the Virginia area, and it was always, if there's ever any family gathering getting together, there's just way too much food. The whole Thanksgiving saying of like, the meal's not done when you're full, the meal's over when you hate yourself.
That's right.
It's a lot of that, just like, why are we preparing all this food? Because there's no way we're going to eat it. But I mean, then you have leftover for days, which is nice.
Yes, which is good. And then you get to try different things, and that's another big part of it too.
So then what is your go-to like breakfast and dinner meal?
Ooh, good question. I consider myself, I cook a lot of things. It's a fortunate thing over time I've learned. So therefore I cook a lot. I do love a classic breakfast taco. It just is, because you can put anything in it. Some are my family's favorites, some are not my family's favorites, but I like myself a good breakfast taco. And dinner, I'm all over the board. Dinner goes in waves. Also temperature, what the temperature is outside. When it's warm, I like lighter foods, Mediterranean cuisine, those types of, maybe some salads, and I mess around with that kind of stuff. And then when it's cold outside, I like slow braising short ribs, some beefs, different kinds of things like that. And then who doesn't like grilling? So we're in Texas. Beef's king in Texas, so that's always a fun thing to do.
Oh yeah, we just actually got another half cow.
Nice.
So now we're back in the swing of just, that's what the meat is for every night.
Right.
I threw some in the crock pot, got some roast going. So, and then I'm definitely I'm a creature of habit, especially when it comes to breakfast. So it's pretty much 2 eggs, some taco seasoning, ground beef, homemade taco seasoning. So,
for sure.
It's better than the store-bought one.
Yeah, of course.
And then sometimes tortillas, sometimes not. So it's more often than not a breakfast taco pretty much every single morning.
Yes, a huge fan. Sometimes I'll even like loosely scramble a fried egg So the yolk's still kind of runny, and put that in a taco. It's still a taco.
Yeah.
Taco's just a vessel.
Exactly.
So it's great.
That reminds me of a story I heard. Someplace Midwest or something was zoned for a sandwich shop, and a taco shop moved in, and they were like, well, it's not zoned for that. And so just because of the rules and regulations, they fought to be recognized as a sandwich shop. So technically, a taco is just a different kind of sandwich.
It is.
And it's all just a vessel for eating different kinds of food. So
that's exactly right. And you know what, the thing about a sandwich or a taco, different, call them anything you want, right? In all over the world. It's, if you're even eating a baguette, or you're eating a cubano, or you're eating a torta, or all those things from all over the world, it's the same thing. It's some sort of vessel with two flour-based products with protein and other veggies in it. That's right. That's just pretty much what it is.
I love it. So you had mentioned, family growing up being a big part of your love for cooking. Was there like a specific memory or specific family member that kind of really ingrained that in you?
No, it's really interesting is it's not just one memory. It's just the fact that my mom cooked every meal. So it became part of what you did. You'd come home from school, you did your homework, and then you'd help around the kitchen. And one of the things that I remember most is my mom making tortillas. And early on, there's only so many things you let your child do in the kitchen. So a lot of times it was pouring water into the masa, and that's things you would do. And learning how to flip tortillas with your hands and not a spatula, things like that. Those are little memories. But one thing that was really cool growing up was my sister and I have two older sisters and a younger brother. But my sister that's closest to me, we would get home from school and mom and dad would not be home from work yet. And we were very limited on what we were allowed to touch in the house, right? Someday, that's just the way it was. But we would make grilled cheese sandwiches. And I never forget, my sister and I went on a run of trying to make the perfect grilled cheese sandwich. Until this day, we laugh about like how many grilled cheese sandwiches did we make over the span of a couple of months? But that was fun. So I remember that memory, and that has kind of stuck with me time and time again from a standpoint of you can always tweak a dish, you can always make it different, you can always change how things happen. And I think emotion has a big play on cooking. My mom's well known for her hot sauce. She makes a classic red hot sauce.
That's awesome. So the question is, did you achieve the perfect grilled cheese sandwich?
Back then, I would have said yes, but of lately, I've mastered it. As I got better at cooking, you realize there's a lot more to it. So I would say right now, especially my youngest son, he and I can make a pretty mean grilled cheese sandwich.
There we go. And then the other question, of course, is, are you throwing it with some tomato soup?
I do not. I know. My wife, she says, so they make tomato soup. I do not. I just like I like a grilled cheese sandwich, believe it or not. I like it with plain potato chips. Just plain salted potato chips.
And here's the thing. I don't actively ever go out of my way to eat or drink or whatever tomato soup. It's pretty much only if it's a grilled cheese. Like there's no other reason, in my opinion, to go out of your way.
Well, that's how my wife and son are. It's like, we're making a grilled cheese sandwich, out where they're making tomato soup. So I've also learned how to make a good tomato soup and tomato bisque because they like that. So I'm like, why not?
There we go. So how would you describe your cooking style?
There's a lot of spice in what I do just because naturally it's what I like, because I like heat. But I would say it's very... it's worldly. I've been very fortunate in the business I'm in. I've been in the wine and spirits industry my entire adult life. I started off in the restaurant business when I was in high school. Funny story. My sisters and I, me being the kind of the salesman of a bunch, all our friends, we had moved out of San Antonio into a rural community in La Crosse, Texas. And my sisters and I, their friends, all of our friends were getting paid for getting A's and B's. My sisters convinced me, you should ask Dad. You're the sales guy, you can do this. And I think I was a freshman in high school, I believe. And so I sit down with my dad and I talk to him, and my dad, being who he is, his penmanship is unbelievable. He gets out a sheet of paper and he starts writing this thing, and he says A's. And what do you think? I'm like, a quarter? And he's like, a quarter. And how many classes do you get? Well, this. And I'm getting excited. Like, I just had a big win for us and me and my sisters. And he then draws a line. And till this day, I can remember what that sounded like of the pencil, because he always had mechanical pencils. The sound of the pencil going down the line, because he did it so slow. And then he started writing things, rent, food. And I knew I was in trouble. And we got to the end of that, and he said, I think you owe me money. He proceeded to get the newspaper out and start circling jobs. I had a job within a week. I didn't think I'd get a job because I was 13, 14 years old. He walked me into my first job to go get it. It was washing dishes. And he told the manager, he's allowed to work. I give you 100% permission. And she's like, well, you understand it's dishwashing. He could get out here at 1 o'clock in the morning on weekends. And he's like, that's fine. I'll pick him up. And that was how I got started in the restaurant business, was I was washing dishes at age 13 and 14 years old.
That's hilarious. Nice. That's funny.
So going back to cooking style, that's what the question was. Since then, it was a German restaurant. And there was food that I was never, ever had been around. So from chicken Kiev to schnitzels to all these things that I just didn't know existed. So that's how that started my interest in that. Then I got into the wine and spirits industry. And when I jumped to the supplier side, which I'm on now, which I represent different brands from all over, I got to travel. Been very blessed, got to travel all over the world. And being that I had a keen love for food, I always tried to bring something back with me in my head, right? In my head. And I would try to replicate it at home. So that's how it really started. So traveled to Chile, Argentina, Spain, France, Japan, great culinary places, and I seek out these locations, Italy, and I bring that. So I have that influence on my cooking. So I don't want to say I can cook just about anything, but I'm pretty good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So how does your different cultural roots and your life in Texas and Bastrop kind of influence your cooking styles?
Yeah. So, I talked about how I've picked up different styles from around the world, but there's something that's ingrained, and that's just my heritage. And coming from San Antonio, it's Tex-Mex cuisine. I mean, that is the art of it. And it's really interesting as I've gone through this cooking journey, if you would. There's people that said, well, he's not cooking Mexican food. Well, of course not. I'm in Texas and I'm cooking Tex-Mex, right? That has the Latin flair to it. So that has a lot of influence. But as you go just from San Antonio to Bastrop area, it changes so much, the cuisine does. And then you start getting into this area. This area has more of a little more game that we're using, obviously a lot more beef, but beef in a different way. And there's some German influence. There's some Czech influence as we go a little north and a little east. So I've sought to combine those two things, right? So that's something that I've done. And on the show, my audition dish was a anciote rubbed quail. So taking anciote, which is a really rich peppered kind of spice from Mexico, and quail. Everyone hunts quail around Texas, right? So I'm marrying the two, even though you do see a lot of quail in the northern part of Mexico, but it's cooked a little differently. So that's kind of how that bridges the gap between the two cultures.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool to hear. I think I had read in the Community Impacts article that your daughter had kind of pushed you forward a little bit to submit it. Yeah,
the journey to this was pretty interesting. So my daughter was home from the summer from college, and we're sitting around the table after dinner, and she's like, oh, Dad, you should audition or apply for MasterChef. And I said, sure. So she starts reading the questions and I'm answering them. And they're long answer questions. They're not, what's your favorite color? And we get around 10 questions in. I said, Mia, how many questions? And she goes, there's 160 something. And I literally said, I'm out. And she's like, my wife's, oh, come on. Like, no, I'm not doing this. Fast forward a couple of weeks on a Sunday after breakfast, she walks in, she says, we were doing this today. Today's the deadline. We're doing this. Like, okay, let's do this. Took us all day because you had to do a couple of sound bites, a couple of video clips. And this was back in June. And I really didn't think I'd get a call back. And then it just started to snowball. One interview turned into 2, to Zoom calls, to 3, to 4. I need more content. I need more pictures of food. And it just went on week after week. It started to build and build and build. And then I got the news November, the week of Thanksgiving. It was actually pretty cool. Me and a few friends, we fried turkeys for the Calvary Episcopal Church. They do a Thanksgiving dinner on Wednesdays.
Nice.
And we cook anywhere between 20 to 60 turkeys, depending on what's the need for that year. Mm-hmm. So that day I was with my friends who have helped me through this journey, right? They're the ones who challenged me, make this, make that. And I got the call. So it was really exciting to get the call that time of the year with my friends that I'd made they didn't tell me how many people at that time, but they told me they had made the show and I'd be traveling to Toronto on January 6th. Mm. It's my daughter. She was the one who just forced me to do that. And my family has been great. They've been supportive. My son helped with a lot of videos and editing. My youngest, he loves to cook. So just being in the kitchen with him helped. And then obviously my daughter and my wife being supportive, which it's been a family ordeal. And I cooked a lot between November and January. Probably the most I've cooked in my life. I cooked a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long was the recording process for?
The recording process was, we'll call it 9 weeks,
okay,
give or take. There was a break in there. The show was doing back-to-back seasons. So when our group got to a certain point, we all went home, and then they brought everyone back. And they were doing that so they could kind of use the space and simultaneously use for the 2 different seasons.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what was it like cooking on MasterChef?
The pressure is real. I'd seen the show a couple of times. My daughter and wife, they've watched every season. I would watch certain, just here and there. And I'd watch the show and I'd say, oh my gosh, how do they forget to butter the bread? Come on. I now know how they forget to butter the bread. The pressure's real. And it's the interesting thing about the show is everything is real. You legitimately have to cook. Now, I'm sure that production team may have favorites or may have someone that they may see to have better screen value. But at the end of the day, you have to cook. And that's, if you undercook something, overcook something, you put yourself at risk, definitely. So the pressure is real. And the biggest challenge was you don't know when you're cooking. That was the really biggest thing. And they do that to keep everyone sharp. So there was 45 of us that made it to Toronto. And something I realized really quick was they're watching everything you do. I realized that the minute I walked in the hotel room. I guess experience will tell you, okay, I'm being monitored.
The hotel room is bugged.
Yeah. So I could just tell that they're watching everything we do, how we interact with people, how we grow, how we mature throughout that process. Because they have a lot invested into this. They want to make sure it's done right. So that was really interesting. And the pressure was really quick. After the first day there, by day 3, after we had cooked twice, practice sessions. Again, you don't know when you're cooking. You're in this holding room with 45 other people. They call your name, you go down, you cook. Some planning is happening, but they kind of guide you what you want based on what we provided for them. And all practice sessions, they're not recorded professionally, but they are recorded. And there's a culinary team, and they are watching everything you do, and they're taking notes, as they should, right? They want to see how people improve. On Saturday night, it's really interesting to talk about pressure. My family is coming on Sunday. They allow family and friends to be there for the first 4 episodes, which is, I'll talk about the thematic for the show. On Saturday night, we were informed that 5 people were going to get cut on Monday morning, and that if we needed to notify family members to let them know that we're not going to be cooking for the judges. And I knew I was on the bubble because on one of my first cook it was a mess. It just was not good. I was really bummed. But fortunately, my second cook, it was perfect. So I felt good, but I also knew that the chances are there could be 40 people that had 2 good cooks, right? So, and the talent was real. We didn't get to see anyone's dishes the first 2 days. I don't know how they do it, but they kept us in. You're cooking with 10 other people, but you don't really see their final dishes. They keep you in a solid. When you're done, they escort you out the room. You don't touch anything. You're not allowed to taste any of your competitors' foods ever throughout the whole show. And they do this because they don't want any influence. So let's just say you do Italian food really well, and I taste something, and then we have a conversation about it. Well, I've just learned something from you and taken it. So they keep it very proprietary. So which I respect that. So I called my family and said, look, there's a chance, that I could not make the cut. Family's like, no, we're going anyway. So that's kind of how it happens. And then it starts. They start cutting people. We see an episode 1 a week. That was happening on the daily. So people were going home, pretty quick. And the pressure was intense. And the clock goes by really fast. And there's also some cool things that people may not know about the show. As if you've seen the show, when people put their dishes on the plate, there's time allotments. You're not allowed to start plating until a certain mark. That keeps the intensity high, and also whatever you envisioned you were going to put on the plate, you have to make sure you can execute it in pretty much 2 minutes.
Wow. Okay. So that's how because that was going to be one of my questions. You always see on the shows, they're desperately trying to finish it and timers ticking down. And it's well, how much of that is manufactured, or they finished 20 minutes ago and they're just kind of chilling?
No, you're not allowed to start plating until a certain mark.
Wow.
And they tell you what that mark is.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that keeps that
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yes.
Like, okay, now I understand why it's always that timer that's ticking down as people are like desperately trying to finish it up.
What's interesting is a couple shows have aired now, and I'm seeing it for the first time, right? We don't get any, preview at all. So we're seeing it, all of us together for the first time. And it's interesting to me, even when we're episodes in, so some of us have been cooked already, so you feel a little more comfortable, but you can still see the tremors in people's hands as they're plating, and their nerves are real. No matter how comfortable you get, it's the pressure. It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I can see that. So you had talked a little bit about like how they keep everybody siloed. Was there any interaction with the other chefs?
Oh yeah, it was great. I met some lifelong friends. So we would get to the studio around 7 a.m, and they put us in a holding room, which was a white sheetrocked, bright light, no clocks, no watches, no devices whatsoever, just a bunch of cookbooks and games. So it was like, like a little mini kitchen there, for snacks and coffee and tea, whatever. And they would bring in food for us from time to time. So we just got to know each other. We played cards. It's just a bunch of foodies nerding out on, we're opening cookbooks, talking about different methods and stuff. And it was really, for me, it was very invigorating. Lots of young people. And it was really great to see these young kids that this is their career path. We had one who stepped away from her master's program to compete in the show. One was doing his best, and he did end up graduating. So that was kind of from college. 2 people quit their job to do this. So these are people that this is what they want to do, and I admired that. I admired their passion. There was quite a bit of food content creators, some that had plus north of 1 million followers before they even stepped onto the show. So it was invigorating for me to just see and be around people that have a passion for it, and not only for the food, but for the culinary experience altogether. So I met some really lifelong friends, and it was really, really, really great.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and what's been also really cool is like of the top 20. I ended up making the top 20, got an apron, big deal. So that group, we got really close. And it's been really fun as the episodes come along. There's a lot of texting that's going on, interaction, because we're seeing it for the first time as well. We're seeing other people's.
Are you guys all in like one big group chat?
We are, and we chat every day. It's awesome. Every day life experiences. We get together one time. I travel quite a bit. So being in the sake business, I manage the U.S. wholesale business network for quite a few brands for us. And so I get to travel. So whenever I'm traveling across the U.S., I'll ping some of my fellow members. We'll go to coffee, lunch, go to dinner, whatever it is. So that's been fun. And then they do the same thing. There's quite a few of us that have a profession that travels. So it's been really great to see that. And they really have become lifelong friends.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's really cool. So with, that interaction, were you guys trading different like recipe ideas, or did you guys keep that, or was it like how much did it feel like these are, you said they're lifelong friends, how much was it like a bit of competition, I don't want to share anything, versus just a lot of collaboration?
I think everyone, if you're going to put yourself out there and go to a show like that, you have a competitive nature in you. So let's just get that out of the way. And I'm sure there was 200 people but they have to cull it down. So it was over 10,000 applicants, to give you an idea, the scope of things. So 10,000 applicants, culled it down to 45, and only 20 get an apron. So this show is unique because in this season, they called it the Global Gauntlet, and it's themed around the World Cup, since that's in the US. So they put us in buckets, if you would, teams. So you had the Team Americas, which I was representing, and then we had Team Africa, Team Europe, and Asia Pacific. So they had 10 of us representing the Americas, competing for 5 aprons, and then, blah, blah, blah. So they ended up with 20 contestants. There was a lot of collaboration. There's a gentleman, his name is Jake. He was representing Mexico as well. He's from Detroit, of all places. He was adopted, so he has discovered his Mexican roots later on. We literally worked through making tortillas in the hotel room. So you do help people. There's a lot of collaboration. You're talking about different things, but where the competitive started, it's like anything. Once the clock starts, then you were in it, and you're in it to win.
Yeah.
At that point, but when it's over, everyone's supportive. So it was a very unique experience, very, very unique to be all sequestered, if you would, in the same room, competitive. Once the teams were established and the aprons were given out, you started to see a little bit more of that, Team Americas versus Europe. And you started to see, it was interesting, people kind of get together in the holdings rooms. It was kind of the groups of 5. So it was unique to see that.
So I'm guessing now you have a separate group text with just those other.
No, we do not. We started to, and it kind of fizzed out.
Okay.
And then I was talking to a few others from and everyone said the same thing. We started one, and then no.
Everybody's just, we're all friends.
we're on the same group. So that's been kind of neat. An interesting thing about that, the production team and what they're called cook handler, the handlers for us that took care of us, and even the hotel staff that we stayed at. The production team has specifically said that this was the most unique group of contestants that they've seen in a long time, and that the energy was unbelievable. During one of a post interview, you're in the stadium and everything's going on behind you. It would get so loud in there. You would just feel the energy. And the gentleman who was interviewing me and said we had to stop a few times, and he said, "This is amazing." He said, "We as a team are talking about, we go home every night and we just feel so pumped because of the energy you guys are bringing." And I think it had to do with, because of how they did these cultural buckets we were at teams, we literally had so many people from all over the world. And I know, you talk on people, oh, that person's not from Mexico. Well, it's a US show, right? So you have a lot of first, maybe second generation, but no more than that. Everyone was that. It was really interesting talking to people and hearing their stories I was in the bus and Rita was just talking about remembering having to walk to go get water. And I just let that sit for a second, just resonate that. So you have people from all these different backgrounds, and then you're thrown in a room, and it's some of those social layers are already peeled. So you really get to know people. You really get to know people. And I think that's what was really, really fantastic about the show.
That's really cool. So when it comes to the judges kind of reviewing the stuff, how does that all work? Are they tasting it as you're cooking it? Are they just judging the single one? Is it cold by the time they're eating it? How does that all work?
You learn more as you go, and you kind of pick up what's happening. They come by your bench and they will taste. While you'll see a couple episodes where there's tasting spoon, they're tasting. I will say they taste everything. They may not taste it right then and there when they're walking by, because they're having to go by everybody, and they want to talk to you, and they want to, because it's added pressure when they're talking to you, makes for good TV. But they also want to see you succeed. Right? They can't have 20 people not complete their dish. That's a fail. So they're going to help you from that perspective. And also, whenever you're done cooking, yes, you have your dish, right? And it sits there. You're not allowed to touch anything on your bench. And the culinary team, depending on what stage you were, but the culinary team in the first stages would gather a taste of a lot of things and put them in dishes and take them away. And then there was another portion of a cook. I knew I had made some tortillas, right? So I picked the best 2 tortillas, plated them. That's what I used. I had 3 whole tortillas left. I knew it. Walked away. We were asked to leave. We came back in, and every tortilla had a triangle cut out of it. I'm like, these guys are tasting everything. Even the ones I didn't want to put away. So we all started talking as cooks. We're like, okay, if you don't like something, throw it away. Throw it away, because then they can't taste it. So you kind of learn that. But they are tasting everything. So I admired that about the show, and the credibility is there. They are tasting. Are they tasting the food cold on TV? In the first 4 episodes, they are tasting it cold. It's just there's 40 people that they're trying to get it down to. So if you can imagine production, but they are tasting the elements fresh.
Yeah.
As you're done cooking them. Because whenever there are some things you have to do. So if you're putting a protein, which most people do, on a dish, they ask you to make 2. One stays on your bench, and they're tasting that. So you want to take the best one, but you got to make sure that both are good enough, right? They're still going to judge you on the one you put out there, but you still want to make sure that that's done. And then as the show, once you get to the top 20, they're tasting it. The ones they're tasting it pretty quick. There's not as much holding time at that point after that.
Okay, nice. So what is the support from the Bastrop network felt like?
Great question. It has been fantastic. Just last night, we went somewhere after the episode, and I had a couple people just walk up to me and just say, hey, saw you on the show. Good job. Thank you for supporting Bastrop. So it's been really, really great. Social media, people have reached out. And I think also with a couple of local businesses, being in the wine, spirit, sake business, I live in those worlds. Those are people that we depend on for our livelihood. So I've gotten to know a lot of them very well. Sonia at Storehouse I bent her ear during some of the auditioning time before I went up there, and she kind of helped me out with a few pointers. She's been on a cooking show, and she's a friend of mine. Her and David are a friend of mine. So, and then, Numero 28, those guys have been really, really supportive. And then of course, just from Liz at Pluto's, everyone's been great. And then the Gannons and the Plunketts have been amazing. They're longtime friends of mine, so it's been really, really good. So the support's been amazing from not only business leaders, but the people. The people have been great. We've had watch parties, and our biggest one was north of 100 people. We had a watch party at Old Town, which, people I didn't even know that were coming to watch the show to say. So it's been really, really, really fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And that's awesome to hear. Just the local business owners, local restaurateurs just coming behind you and supporting you. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, and I really want to, because people ask me next steps. Like, I don't want to own a restaurant. I have my career path. I've been in the restaurant business, not really interests me. That's a different breed, and plus it's a young man's game. Or, if you're in it as you get older, you're conditioned, right? It'd be really difficult to condition my lifestyle to that. One of the things I want to do is I really want to educate people on how easy it is to cook nicer things. One of the things that I wanted to do to use, like for instance, Circa, my youngest son, he will be a senior next year at Circa, but they have a culinary program of some sort. And Martin, a principal there, we were going to do a 1 or 2 part series next fall where I'll come in, have my apron, and all the things, and just help these kids, because I think that's important. I also want to utilize this opportunity for fundraising. I think that, because look, one thing I've really been humbled by is people really do appreciate and see what I do. Some people said, Kim, I didn't even know you knew how to cook that, but people say, I want you to cook for me. I want you to do this. So I'm going to use this for fundraising opportunities, where maybe I cook for 6 people or 8 people of a private curated deal. And we can raise things for different, whether it's CASA, whether it's, different schools, whatever, because I think it's important. And I think it's important. And if I can use my culinary background and passion to help, why not? Because I've been a big fan of supporting local organizations since I've been here for the last 17 years, whether it's donating gifts or just time, et cetera. And I think I can use this to help that. And I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And just, I like that idea of like, you're already, you got your career past that, you're good on that side, but utilizing your time on the show as well as just your skills and doing that like small, intimate, different kind of cooking ideas. I like that. That's
and I've talked to a few of restaurants, maybe even doing some collaborations. So stay tuned for that. There's a few of those that would be coming. It would just be fun. Just to do it, this is different for me, that people want to be a part of something, because that's not why I, do things. I'm just more of a giving heart, just to give. But I've accepted that and said, okay, let's take advantage of it in a good way, not advantage of anyone, but if people want to be included, want to be around it, let's do something good for it. Yeah. So that's what I'd like to do.
I like it. I like that a lot. So is there anything that we didn't discuss that you wanted to talk about?
I would say that when you look at a show and a TV show, the amount of hours that it takes to come up with a 10-second or a 1-minute clip really blew my mind. Especially now as we're watching the show unfold. We knew that we were there all day for, call it a 35-minute segment and a 35, 40-minute actual airtime, that we're kind of the stars, but it's about the judges and that's who they are. That's something was really interesting. And the second part is I want to talk a little bit about the judges, because one of the biggest questions I get is Gordon Ramsay really a butthole, right? And is Joe really that mean? Tiffany, she's kind of Southern, she's very likable, but I was pleasantly surprised how awesome both Gordon and Joe were, how supportive they were of everyone, and how they want to see people succeed. Now, is a little harsh. Yeah. Is some of it earned? Yes. Some of the things they say, I'm like, well, you kind of deserve that, so-and-so, but I thought it was very, very, very welcoming how they were to us, and they're just trying to teach you. And I took a lot away from that, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot of techniques in such a short period of time, because the talent level of the support, the cooking culinary team, is believable. And I'll swing that into one part of like the cooking part of it and the dishes. People say, oh, you had months to plan for the dishes you're cooking. No, there's an episode on, there was a stadium challenge, so a stadium food challenge. We went into the room, they literally flipped a whiteboard over and said stadium foods. They gave examples of what stadium foods were, hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever. And they said, bring your culture into a stadium food. We had 1 minute to come up with the dish. You talk to your culinary team, they write it down, and you sign off on it. You literally signed the piece of paper saying, this is what we're cooking. They threw us back out to the holding room. Then you come back down and you could cook some of it, but not all of it from time-wise. They say you can cook whatever you want to work on for your dish. You have like 25, 30 minutes, but you don't really plate it up. You're just kind of working on that. And then just kind of waiting around. And next, it's go time and you're cooking the dish. So, and then you hope when you go into the pantry that all the ingredients are in there. And that wasn't the case for a lot of us. So you have to pivot and learn. So that was kind of an interesting thing about the show that was fun.
Interesting. Do you think they probably didn't purposefully have stuff stocked, or is it like...
Good question. No, they actually told us because of the breadth of the people that were there. They said, she told the head of culinary, she was awesome. She said, we're going to try our best, but it is impossible for us to have everything from Asia Pacific, Africa, Mexico, Caribbean, US. It's impossible. So they said, we're going to try, but they tell you, be prepared that if you go in and get something. And plus, some of the proteins, Africa uses a lot of the same poultry that you use in Mexican cuisine. So I went to grab skin-on chicken thighs, not there. There was another episode, I was looking for a particular type of bread, get there, not there. So you have to just pivot really quick and just figure out, okay, how can I make this dish without that?
And I guess that makes sense with it being like, you only have a minute to come up with something. And so your brain starts turning like, okay, well, I can do this, this, and this, and this, but the producers might not have any clue that's the direction that you were planning on going.
What's really interesting is on a specific episode where we were to make a play on Eggs Benedict. And I gave them my list and I wanted chorizo. One thing I didn't really realize was that chorizo is global, right? So when I go into the pantry, they had Spanish chorizo, which is totally different. So I actually on the show had to make my own chorizo for this dish. So you have to be really think quick, So, and I don't, they say, oh yeah, we have chorizo in there, but they don't have Mexican chorizo.
So what's the difference between Spanish and Mexican chorizo?
Well, Spanish chorizo is cured, almost like you would like a salami. If you're more paprika spiced,
okay,
as a little redder. It's still spicy, and the texture, like Spanish chorizo, is just like a salami. It doesn't crumble. Where Mexican chorizo, you want it to crumble, and because I wanted to make chorizo beans, so it's kind of what texture-wise wanted to do it. So.
Okay, very interesting. So we asked all of our guests on what 60 seconds of wisdom they could pass on to our listeners. And it can be anything from your time on the show, anything from your time in restaurants or in the wine and spirits industry, or just family life. So anything at all. What are 60 seconds of wisdom that you could pass on to our listeners?
Yeah, I think for anyone out there is... if you have something that you like to do or there's a passion, chase it, do it. I mean, because life's short. And if you have a passion for something that brings joy to you, chase it, go for it. And you're never too old. I would have never thought I would have been in this situation. And I think that's important. And also another thing is trust the people around you. If your people around you give you advice and say you're good at something or you have a talent for something, trust them. And go after it. You never know what's going to happen.
That's cool. I like it. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show today. It's been great hearing about your journey and just how that all went on MasterChef. And that was really cool. I really enjoyed hearing kind of your perspective and how you've been able to grow from it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the time.
Absolutely.
Pleasure was mine.
100%.
Thanks for listening to the Bastrop Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, follow us on Instagram at Bastrop Podcast and share it with a neighbor. We're here with new conversations from people who make Bastrop feel like home. Got someone you think we should interview? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you.